Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Force number 21, cover dated April 1993. So this is a very dynamic cover by Greg Capullo, penciling and inking himself here on the cover. We have War Machine. He showed up at the end of the previous issue in the cliffhanger to that. And the cover caption is War Machines. So we're going to have the genetically enhanced soldier that is Shatterstar taking on War Machine, if this cover is anything to go by. Nice colours on the cover as well. Let's open this one up to the first page. So as I said at the end of the previous issue, War Machine turns up and he's giving the X-Force a chance to ease off and leave this place to the proper authorities or go down the hard way. And we see here into his computer systems where he's getting information on X-Force, on the team, all of the different members indicated as targets, and we get a little information regarding their various power sets. So Cannonball, their kinetic propellant field generator; Lila Cheney, their teleportational warp generator; Sunspot, solar absorption emission; and I find this funny for Feral, enhanced sensory reflexive capabilities. That is to say, she is an animal, yes. And what does Cannonball say to War Machine's offer? Much as I hate to admit it, War Machine, X-Force only seems to know one way to do things. That's nice setup for turning the page, and a superb double page splash. Let's see it here. Yeah, War Machines. And we see War Machine letting loose with a salvo of various shots at all the different members of X-Force. So they all scatter. Really like that somersaulting movement there by Richter. And the creative team: Fabian Nicieza writer, Craig Capullo on pencils, Harry Candelario inks, Chris Eliopoulos letters, and Marie Javins and Steve Buccellato on colours. So let's continue with the story. There are 23 pages of story in this particular issue. So this is a really great panel here. War Machine sending off all of those projectiles at Sam, but when Sam is blasting, he is invulnerable. So War Machine pivots his laser cannon and hits the roof behind Sam. But really that's doing damage to the sentient ship that is known as, or that is called Graymalkin by Cable, and that answers to the title of Professor. So the alert sounds there: internal systems damage, appropriate referent. I think it's Richter here says, "You got that right, ship." And ship responds, appropriate referent is Professor, because we had all of that in the previous issue regarding what is the connection between X-Factor's ship and what went with baby Nathan Christopher into the future, what of ship went into the future, and how much of that sentient AI is now in the mix for Graymalkin and the Professor. So Richter hits War Machine from behind with his gravitational wave powers, while Sunspot takes him from the side. So that's what you want to see, is you want to see these guys, these former New Mutants teammates, acting together and giving War Machine a real challenge there. And so he responds and says, "You kids do pack a punch. Give you that much, I'll just have to retaliate in kind." So off goes those weapon systems, but he's using rubber bullets, so he doesn't want to kill them. So, James Rhodes is a hero and not a villain, so he's not going to kill the kids. But interesting there, Shatterstar, very impressed by the beard of Arise. He says this opponent is worthy of our metal. In the meantime, Lila Cheney teleports out and Feral's not impressed. She calls Lila a wimp. But we get some information here on how Graymalkin, the Professor's doing. Internal operating capabilities at 64% self-actualization, repair facilities offline, internal security measures at 14%. So that big craft that they're all on is taking damage from the fight, and that's not good for any of them. This is a great DeLuca effect here of Feral somersaulting, but she finds herself at the end of a massive gun pointed at her by Nick Fury. That's a great upshot on him and his snarling face there as he says to her, That was the only smart move you yahoos have made all night. But she apologizes comically to him. Sorry, Fury, smartest move I could make is tearing your old tongue out. But Sammy wouldn't be too thrilled if I did that. So she bounds and bounces and somersaults away. And Fury's blast here does more damage to the inside of Graymalkin. Systems damage alert. Systems damage alert. So that notice repeats. Now here we get our cover scene where Shatterstar is launching himself at War Machine. So the smoke is clearing, sensor scan mode, heat imaging, infrared imaging. Come out wherever you are, says James. And Shatterstar emerges. So he is ready to take on War Machine, and he's spoiling for the fight. Now let us see you come out from your metallic shell. That's good stuff. So now we get a down shot of Sunspot. He is helping Cannonball out from under all that debris that fell on him earlier. And Cannonball explains, I wanted to trigger my blast field to clear myself out of here, but I was afraid of causing even more damage. So Cannonball alert to the danger of all the damage that is being done to Cable's ship. So he is no fool. And we can see here that the ship is breaking up. And the SHIELD operatives there are listening in to the Professor as the Professor indicates what's going on. Internal operating capabilities at 47%, internal security measures at 6%, so it's all dropping. Self-actualization, repair facilities offline. Self-preservation mode offline. So really, Nick asked there, did it say something about preservatives? But really what's going on there is that the ship is going to break up, it's going to explode, unless something radical is done. So Cannonball asks, what's going on here? And notice now he's calling ship Professor. So the ship Professor responds, there's nothing you can do without the proper override sequencing. I cannot alter my programming in order to save myself. And will you please stop calling me ship, okay? Only one person has voice actualization command control over my functions, he says to Cannonball in answer to his question, and that person is Cable. But of course, everybody thinks that Cable died at the end of Executioner's song. Now the scene switches to Camp Verde, which is X-Force's current base. It is the reservation that was the living place of James Proudstar's Apache tribe, but they were all killed. But X-Forces made their base there in the ruins of the town. And in the previous issue, it was established that Boom Boom, Siren and Warpath went into town in order to get supplies. So they arrived back and no note was left for them regarding where everybody's gone. So Siren takes a look around to see where they are. That's a really nice shot of her there, flying and taking a look to see where the other team members are. Boom Boom calling out for them. But whose fist and hand and forearm is this in the foreground, in silhouette, but with this energy wrapping around the fist as our heroes come unawares towards this figure hiding in the shadows. So let's see, they're blasted and they're knocked unconscious, and this guy turns out to be an external. So he's unimpressed by X-Force. Is it actually conceivable that Gideon considers you a threat to our existence? So he keeps asking all these rhetorical questions, and he says, well, no, you're not a threat. The externals never worry about anything for too long at all, do we? Because of course they're long-lived. So who is this guy? What's he up to? We'll find out in the next issue. But meanwhile, there is a cutaway to Domino, who's back and who went to Australia in the previous issue to the Outback and recruited Grizzly, and they're coming to visit another member of the of Cable's 6-pack, and this guy here is Hammer. So he reveals to them that Kane showed up 6 weeks ago. Now you two. I jumped for joy, if I could. We need your help, Hammer, says Grizzly. It involves Cable, says Domino. That's a really nice 3/4 acute profile on the side of Hammer's face there. It looks good. Nice cross-hatching too, rendering in the cheekbone there by Harry Candelario. Does it involve killing him? Asks Hammer. No, then it doesn't involve me. It does, Hammer, counters Domino, because it involves keeping his legacy alive. So Domino's building something here, and let's see where that goes in the next issue. But meanwhile, we go back to Graymalkin. It's coming up to midnight, and the ship is blowing up, really, and it's falling. It's coming apart at the seams. And this is a great moment here. I like this. So GW Bridge gets Cannonball up against the wall, and he says, "This is all your fault, Guthrie. Cable made you in his own image, all right, stubborn and stupid." And Cannonball responds, "We got as much right to Cable's legacy as anyone else does." And Bridge really gets in his face there, snarling. He says, "Legacy? You punk. If we lose this piece of hardware because of your stupid daddy fixation, and this is just, GW Bridge has been asking for this since issue number 1. Cannonball just punches him in the jaw. "You'll do nothing," he says. "I'm sick of you and your people hounding us for no reason whatsoever." Of course, Bridge's problem is with Cable, and that's why he's after X-Force and why he's after whatever he can get from Graymalkin. So War Machine intervenes, says, "Let go of the man, Sam. Fight's over now, before there's nothing left of this craft to salvage." "Then let it go that way, War Machine," responds Cannonball. What do all of you want Graymalkin for anyways? To build more weapons? To make better guns?" he asks. And Nick Fury shows up. "And what do you want, Guthrie?" So that kind of quietens Sam a little bit, and he responds, "I just want for Cable to have left us something, anything." And then there's an explosion, and Ship says, "Self-preservation programming, diagnostic scan completed, self-preservation backup mode implementing." So maybe there's a way out of this for Ship / the Professor. By the way, that kind of tight 3/4 profile angle there is distinctive of Capullo's style in this period. Very distinctive of him, different from anyone else's way of drawing. Then the scene, then what happens is we get the aftermath of that explosion. War Machine pulling himself out of the debris. Various members of X-Force here getting themselves up and dusting themselves off. And Lila returns. So she's come back to rescue X-Force. And Shatterstar's got feral here. She must have been knocked out in the explosion. "Should we not leave as expediently as possible?" he asks. Richter says, "Yeah, we should, but it ain't that easy. Not only do we have to figure out what to do with Fury and his crew, but Sam and Berto have disappeared too." So where did Cannonball and Sunspot go? Well, they went into the main engineering operations command terminal of the craft of the space station, and Sunspot asks, "Did you bring us here so we could help to save you?" And the Professor responds, "I'm afraid, Roberto, that saving me is out of the question. I've begun the initiation of self-destruct procedures. The question now is, how much of myself can I salvage for you?" So Cannonball wonders, "Are you telling me that Cable didn't build an override system in you?" Ship says, "Yes. There's an override command system installed in my programming. Okay, so let's start using it." And the Professor says, "The OC systems are voice activated only." So Cable was identified earlier as being the one to voice activate any commands to the Professor. And Cannonball is angry. "No, I won't give up this easy. This base is more than a bunch of weapons and ships. Even more than Cable's last will and testament to us. If Professor is Ship, then he's also our friend." That's really good. That's a really good moment there. And the Professor responds, "Unfortunately, Samuel, the point is rather moot. Nathan Dayspring did program a secondary voice override, but he did not input the second's identity into my programming." So now they're wondering, who could it have been? One of the six-pack? Asks Cannonball. And Roberto says, "Who would a man who trusts no one trust with everything he had?" Cannonball asked that question. And Roberto gets it. "You. No, that ain't possible. He wouldn't." "Of course he would, Sam," says Sunspot. You know it's you. Do it. So Cannonball gingerly says, Professor, self-destruct voice-activated override order. Secondary access requested. Samuel Guthrie enacting command. And there's a little machine hum or whirring there. So is this going to work? Let's have a look. Yes, indeed. Secondary override access granted. So that's it. Cable did nominate Cannonball to have a secondary voice command access to the space station. And now the professor explains, before being able to enact cloaking and self-replicating systems, Graymalkin must substantially reduce its operational load. So that means some things are going to have to be dumped from the base. And we get more information here. The professor says, I've accepted that there is indeed a link between this unit, Nathan Dayspring, Ascani's son, the man you call Cable, and both of you. A link that is thousands of years old. It is my determination that if I cannot have access to my main programmer in making decisions of such consequence, then I would prefer the advice and counsel of his spiritual children to help determine my fate. So that really catches Sam, because he was so, upset that Cable had left him nothing, that he had disappeared without making any provision for them, apparently. And so, this is taking him by surprise, that there is a legacy for them. The two of you, Samuel, the two sides to the coin which Nathan flipped when he set you on the path of the warrior, Cable's children indeed. So the two boys in shock there, and then the scene switches to Boston, Massachusetts. We had a setup for this in the previous issue, but there's a nice little Easter egg here, which is if you look at the name of this Boston bar, it's Cheers, and it is the bar from the TV program. So we've got Norm there at the end of the bar, which is where he usually is. We've got Ted Danson there serving at the bar. It's very, very good stuff. So in comes Christina Valentino and now her twin, but her twin is Vanessa Carlyle, who was the person masquerading as Domino in the first year of X-Force. So there's a little mystery building there, but this is a great little scene. Excellent artwork by Capullo on this particular page. This guy with his little sleazy trick of dropping the money on the floor in order to get a look at the girls' gams. He'd get arrested for that in 2024. Let's move on with the story. And the scene switches to New Delhi and Deadpool. So Deadpool has been, since issue 15, looking for where did Vanessa disappear to, and he's gone to the ends of the earth almost in order to find this guy here, Abala, who he's threatening to cut his tongue out unless he gets the information he wants from him. So Abala says, any information you need regarding Mr. Tolliver's operatives can be made readily available to you. So he gives him a file, and now Deadpool finds the location of Vanessa Norwell. That's near Boston, right? She was living with that Valentino broad before Tolliver blackmailed her. Oh, I always hated that little snit too, he says. That's it, Nessie, I'm coming for you. I'm going to cut you both down. So more setup for future issues. Deadpool going to get revenge on Vanessa. And then we switch back to Graymalkin. It is after midnight and the station is still shaking, and it looks like it's going to explode. So Fury and War Machine think it's best to get out. So Fury says here, we clear out. None of my people are worth sacrificing for a bunch of nuts and bolts. But GW Bridge, he really needs to take a chill pill. He's not happy at all, he says. But this was Cable's base of, was being the operative term. GW, says Nick. Shouts at him, really. But let it go, man. He's dead. It's over. It's over. So, again, everybody believes Cable is dead at this point in time. So, War Machine points out that Lila Cheney is aboard Graymalkin, and that she's very likely to teleport X-Force out. That's exactly what she's talking about. She says to Richter, I know how you feel, but we don't have either the time or the firepower to keep fighting these jokers, she says. we can be out of here with a flick of my fingers. So what's it going to be? Do we blow this gin joint or what? So they still don't know where Sunspot and Cannonball are. They're still in the main operations room. And they are in dialogue with Ship in terms of what to do in respect of saving a portion of the Professor of Ship. So what they're at is dumping the weapons depot. And Cannonball doesn't want it blown up. He wants the Professor to dump it, re-entry angle it towards our Camp Verde base in Arizona. I mean, if you can, that is. So the Professor says, "Can do, would only require some minor navigational computations, Samuel, and it is a very strategic maneuver, I might add." So that is the Professor complimenting Cannonball, and Cannonball really showing himself here as deserving of Cable's trust, and in effect his position as leader of X-Force in the absence of Cable. But still so we see the weapons depot being jettisoned and at an angle that it should land in X-Force's Camp Verde base. So what's next? The Professor says there's got to be more weight dumped. And so the question is, what now to dump? The main cargo bay terminal, the Professor suggests. The time displacement central core, the Professor suggests. And that catches Cannonball's attention. The time displacement core, that's what Cable used to travel back and forth in time, isn't it? And the Professor confirms affirmative. So now this page looks like it was rushed. It looks like it was blown up from thumbnails and inked fairly quickly as well. But it conveys what's going on here, where Cannonball is thinking on the fly, and he says, "Okay, Professor, dump the cargo bay, same coordinates as before, Camp Verde." So the jettisoning is the cargo bay is jettisoned. I'll put it that way. And now Cannonball is thinking, now what to do about the time displacement core. If we dump that, whether he's dead or alive, here or there or back again, then we lose Cable forever. Sunspot asks Sam, what would Cable have done in this situation? And Cannonball responds, "Don't matter, Bobby. What matters is what he taught us to do." So he flicks a switch, dump it, Professor, dump it in the deepest, furthest part of the Pacific Ocean. So the Professor complies, but something goes wrong. Plasma emissions release levels reading nominal, and then something goes wrong. Alert, electromagnetic field flux registering anomaly, and then Professor goes offline. The alert sounds, and the station explodes. And we can see S.H.I.E.L.D.'s shuttle there, not blown up, but Graymalkin explodes. To be continued. Adieu. All right. So no letters page in this particular issue, but that really was action-packed. Some great character moments as well. I really like that bit where Cannonball punched GW under the jaw. That was a great moment. And nice little kind of heartfelt moments as well, as Cannonball realizes that Cable really did trust him by giving him that voice command override for Graymalkin. Let me know your thoughts on this issue in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video on YouTube and consider sharing it. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.